Imagine this. You wake up one morning and the world feels off. The light filtering through your window carries a strange hue, as if the sun itself is uncertain. You go through your routine, coffee, commute, conversations, but something gnaws at you, a splinter in your mind. The people around you move like actors in a play, their words rehearsed, their smiles a little too perfect. You look in the mirror, and for a fleeting moment, you don't recognize the face staring back. It's you, but is it? A question whispers in the back of your skull. What if the reality you reliving isn't yours at all? You shake it off. It's just a bad night's sleep, you tell yourself. But the unease lingers, growing heavier with every step you take through your day. The coworker who always asks about your weekend, the news feed you scroll through, the goals you chase, they all feel like pieces of a script you never agreed to follow. Why do you want what you want? Why do you fear what you fear? You've never stopped to ask, not really. The world hums along and you're swept up in its current. But what if the current isn't leading where you think it is? What if it's not even a current at all, but a carefully orchestrated tide, pulling you toward a destination you'd never choose if you could see it clearly? This is the paradox that haunts you now. You believe you're free, yet you're tethered to invisible strings. You make choices every day. What to wear, what to say, what to dream, yet how many of those choices are truly yours? The clothes you pick reflect trends you didn't create. The words you speak echo phrases you've heard 1,000 times. Even your deepest desires, to succeed, to be loved, to matter, feel like they were planted in you long before you had a say. If you're the author of your life, why does it feel like someone else is holding the pen? Consider this. Every day you navigate a world that seems solid, predictable, real. You trust your senses, your routines, your beliefs. But what if the very foundation of that reality is a lie? Not a grand conspiracy, but something subtler, more insidious. What if the forces shaping your thoughts, your fears, your entire existence are unseen, not because they're hidden, but because you've been trained not to look? The philosopher Plato once described a cave where prisoners mistook shadows on the wall for reality itself. What if you're still in that cave, mistaking flickering images for truth? This isn't about distrusting everything. It's about questioning the why behind what you see, feel, and believe. Why do you chase success, yet feel empty when you achieve it? Why do you crave approval, even from strangers? Why does the world feel both chaotic and eerily predictable, like a game you're playing without knowing the rules? These questions aren't just philosophical musings. They're cracks in the facade of your reality, glimpses of a deeper truth you've been conditioned to ignore. The tension you feel right now, that knot in your chest, is the weight of those unseen forces pressing against you. They're not ghosts or gods, but something far more human, far more pervasive. They're the silent currents of culture, the unspoken rules of your mind, the invisible scripts written by history, biology, and power. And the scariest part? They don't just shape your world, they shape you. Your identity, your desires, your fears, are they yours? Or are they echoes of a system you've never questioned? You're standing at the edge of a revelation, one that could unravel the way you see everything. But to step forward, you have to confront a question that might break you open. What if the reality you've been living is a story someone else wrote for you? Hold that thought, because the answer lies not in what you see, but in what you've been taught to overlook. The truth is closer than you think, and it's more unsettling than you're ready for. You can't shake the question now. What if your reality isn't yours? It clings to you, a shadow that follows every step. You try to dismiss it, to sink back into the rhythm of your life, work, relationships, the hum of routine, but it's too late. The splinter in your mind has grown, and you're starting to see the cracks. The world you thought was solid is a mosaic of unseen forces, each piece shaping your thoughts, your choices, your very sense of self. But why? Why do these forces exist, and why do they hold such power over you? The hidden problem lies in the architecture of your mind, built not by you, but by the world you were born into. Your thoughts feel like your own, but they're sculpted by 1,000 invisible hands: culture, upbringing, media, history. The philosopher Michel Foucault called this the disciplinary society, a web of norms and expectations that molds you into a predictable, controllable version of yourself. You're not just living in the world. The world is living through you, whispering what to value, what to fear, what to become. You chase success because society told you it's the key to meaning. You avoid failure because you've been taught it's a mark of shame. But who decided these rules, and why do you follow them without question? Psychologically, this begins with your brain's hunger for patterns. The human mind, as psychologist Daniel Kahneman explained, is a story-making machine, desperate to make sense of chaos. From childhood, you're fed narratives about who you should be, what you should want, how you should live. These stories aren't just suggestions. They're embedded in your neural wiring through repetition, reward, and punishment. The approval of a parent, the sting of rejection, the glow of a like on your screen, they all carve grooves in your psyche, guiding your choices before you even realize you're choosing. You think you're deciding, but often you're just following the path of least resistance, laid out by forces you can't see. Philosophically, this is an ancient problem. Socrates warned that an unexamined life is not worth living, yet how many of your beliefs have you truly examined? You inherit assumptions about morality, success, happiness, from your culture, your family, your era. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus argued that your suffering comes not from events, but from your judgments about them. Yet those judgments aren't entirely yours. They're shaped by a society that profits from your compliance, your insecurity, your distraction. You're taught to crave external validation, to measure your worth by numbers, money, followers, achievements, because a system that thrives on control needs you to stay hungry, never satisfied. This isn't just abstract theory, it's personal. Think about the last time you felt inadequate. Maybe it was a missed promotion, a comparison to someone else's curated life, a fear of falling behind. That pang in your chest wasn't just you. It was the weight of a culture that equates your value with your output, your image, your status. The unseen force here is a psychological trap, the illusion of autonomy. You're told you're free, but your desires are engineered, your fears weaponized. The writer Anais Nin once said, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." But what if the we you think you are is a construct shaped by forces you've never questioned? The roots of this problem run deep, entwined with power and history. Every society, from ancient empires to modern democracies, thrives by shaping its citizens' realities. Religion, media, education, they're not just tools of enlightenment, but mechanisms of control, subtly dictating what's normal, what's possible. Even your sense of time, rushing from one task to the next, is a product of a world that values productivity over presence. You're not just living in a system, you're a node in its network, programmed to keep it running. And yet, the tension grows. You feel it now, don't you? The sense that something's wrong, that the life you're reliving might not be the one you'd choose if you could see clearly. The consequences of these unseen forces aren't just personal. They ripple outward, shaping societies, histories, entire civilizations. But to understand the true scope of their power, you need to look closer, to see how they twist your reality in ways you never imagined. The truth is darker, and it's waiting just beneath the surface. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? The way your reality bends under the weight of forces you never named. It is not just that your thoughts and desires are shaped by invisible hands. It is that these hands are rewriting your life, moment by moment, in ways you can't ignore once you notice. The consequences of these unseen forces ripple through your mind, your relationships, your entire existence, like a stone dropped in a still pond. But this pond isn't calm. It's a churning sea, and you're caught in its currents, unaware of how deeply they've pulled you under. Consider your daily choices. You pick a career path because it's practical, but who defined practicality? You scroll through feeds, chasing dopamine hits from likes and notifications. But why does a stranger's approval feel like oxygen? These aren't just habits. They were symptoms of a reality shaped by cognitive biases and cultural conditioning. The psychologist Amos Tversky showed that your brain is wired to prioritize the immediate over the eternal, the familiar over the true. This is the availability heuristic at work. You believe what's loudest, what's closest, what's repeated most often. The news cycle, the trending post, the societal mantra of more is better. They flood your mind, drowning out the quiet voice asking, is this really what I want? Neurologically, you're built to conform. Your brain's mirror neurons fire when you see others act, urging you to mimic, to belong. This isn't just biology, it's a trap. The moment you conform, you surrender a piece of yourself to the collective script. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny, nod at opinions you don't share, chase goals that don't light you up, all because the alternative feels like exile. The philosopher Hannah Arendt warned of the banality of evil, how ordinary people enable harm by simply following the crowd. But what about the banality of your own life? How many of your days are spent following a script you didn't write, serving a system that doesn't serve you? On a societal level, these forces are catastrophic. They fuel division, apathy, and blind obedience. Look at history. Entire civilizations have crumbled because people accepted the way things are without question. The Roman Empire fell not just from external pressures, but from internal decay. Citizens too comfortable, too distracted to see the rot. Today, you see it in polarized tribes shouting past each other, in cultures that reward outrage over understanding, in economies that thrive on your discontent. You're told to consume, to compete, to fear the other. And you do, because the alternative feels like swimming against a riptide. But the personal toll is what cuts deepest. Every time you chase a goal that isn't yours, you drift further from who you could be. The cognitive dissonance, the gap between what you feel and what you retold to feel, erodes your sense of self. You're anxious, restless, empty, yet you keep running on the treadmill because stopping feels like failure. The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio describes emotions as the body's way of signaling what matters. But what happens when those signals are hijacked? You feel inadequate not because you are, but because you're measured against a yardstick you didn't choose. Your reality becomes a cage, and the bars are made of beliefs you never questioned. The urgency is palpable now. These unseen forces don't just shape your thoughts, they distort your life. They keep you small, tethered to a version of yourself that's safe, predictable, profitable for someone else. You sense the trap, don't you? The way it closes in, subtle, but relentless, until you're living a life that feels like someone else's dream. But there's a way out. The cage isn't locked. It never was. To escape, you need to do something radical, something that feels like rebellion. You need to turn against the forces that shaped you and reclaim the one thing they've stolen, your ability to see clearly. The path to freedom starts with a single daring act of defiance, and it's closer than you think. You're standing at the edge of the cage now, aren't you? The bars are visible, those unseen forces that have shaped your thoughts, your desires, your reality itself. You feel their weight, the way they've pressed you into a mold that never quite fit. But here is the secret they don't want you to know. The cage isn't locked. It never was. The forces that bind you, culture, conditioning, fear, rely on your compliance, not your chains. To break free, you need to rebel, not with fists or fury, but with a radical shift in how you see the world. This is your rebellion, and it starts with a single defiant question. What if I choose to write my own story? The first step is to stop believing the lie of inevitability. You've been told that this is just how things are. Work, stress, comparison, repeat. But that's not truth. It's a script. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre argued that freedom is terrifying because it demands you take responsibility for your choices. No one else can define your meaning. To rebel is to embrace that terror, to say, I am not what I've been told to be. Start small, question one assumption today. Why do you need that promotion? Why do you scroll endlessly? Why do you fear silence? Each question is a crack in the foundation of the reality you've been handed. This rebellion isn't new. History is littered with those who broke free. Socrates drank hemlock rather than conform to a society that feared his questions. Virginia Woolf wrote against the grain of a world that tried to silence her voice, declaring, "I am rooted, but I flow." These rebels didn't just reject the script, they rewrote it. Take Woolf's example. She carved out space for her mind, refusing to let societal expectations define her worth. You can do the same. Start by reclaiming your attention. Turn off the noise. Social media, news, the constant hum of distraction. In the silence, you'll hear your own voice, faint at first, but growing stronger. Psychologically, this means rewiring your mind. The brain's plasticity, as neuroscientist Norman Doidge explains, means you can unlearn old patterns and forge new ones. Catch yourself when you chase external validation. Pause when you feel the urge to conform. Replace the automatic yes with a deliberate why. Meditation, journaling, or even a walk without your phone can help you untangle the threads of conditioning. These acts sound simple, but they're revolutionary because they pull you out of the system's grip. You're not just thinking. You're reclaiming the right to think for yourself. Practically, rebellion means redefining success. Society tells you it's money, status, followers. But what if success is waking up without dread? What if it's a conversation that leaves you alive with ideas? Look to those who've done it. Diogenes, the Greek philosopher, lived in a barrel to reject materialism, yet his clarity of mind shook empires. You don't need a barrel, but you can reject one goal that doesn't spark joy. Quit the race that's killing you. Say no to the meeting, the trend, the expectation that doesn't serve you. Each no is a brick in the foundation of a new reality. The system will fight back. It always does. Friends might call you strange. Colleagues might raise eyebrows. Your own mind might scream for the comfort of the familiar. But that discomfort is the sign you're breaking free. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage." Your dragons are the fears that keep you tethered. Fear of failure, of judgment, of being alone. Face them. Act with courage, just once, and watch the cage begin to crumble. This rebellion isn't about destruction, it's about creation. You're not just tearing down the old, you're building a reality that's yours. Every question you ask, every assumption you reject, every moment you choose consciously, is a stroke of the pen in your own story. But the deepest truth, the one that will redefine everything, is still ahead. You're close now, closer than you've ever been, to seeing the world as it truly is, and yourself as you were meant to be. You've clawed your way out of the cage, haven't you? You've questioned the scripts, rejected the noise, and started to see the unseen forces for what they are, puppeteers pulling strings you didn't even know existed. But now, standing in the wreckage of the reality you once accepted, you face the final question. What is the truth beneath it all? Not just the truth about the world, but about you. Your purpose, your power, your place in this vast, chaotic universe. The answer is both a revelation and a reckoning, and it will change the way you see everything. The ultimate truth is this: reality is not a fixed thing you inhabit. It is a story you co-create. You've been taught to see the world as a machine, a set of rules and systems you must navigate to survive. But that's the final lie, the deepest illusion. Reality is fluid, shaped by the meaning you give it. The philosopher William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind." But this goes beyond attitude. It's a paradigm shift. You are not a passenger in your life. You are an architect. The unseen forces, culture, conditioning, fear, only have power because you've let them write the story. Take the pen, and the world changes. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating, because it means you're not bound by the scripts you've inherited. Terrifying, because it demands you face the void of your own freedom. Jean-Paul Sartre called this radical freedom, the dizzying truth that you are responsible for the meaning of your life. No one else, not society, not history, not even your past, can define it for you. The anxiety you feel, that restless ache, isn't a flaw. It's the spark of your potential, urging you to create something true. The unseen forces have kept you small, because a system thrives on predictability. But you were never meant to be predictable. You were meant to be singular, unrepeatable, a story no one else can tell. Look back at your life. Every moment of doubt, every pang of longing, every time you felt more was possible, they were clues. Your restlessness wasn't a curse, it was a call to wake up. The neuroscientist David Eagleman describes the brain as a prediction machine, constantly shaping reality based on what it expects. But what if you stop expecting the world to be what you've been told? What if you expect it to bend to your vision? This isn't wishful thinking, it's the power of narrative. The stories you tell yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, become the scaffolding of your reality. Change the story, and the world shifts. History proves this. Think of Nelson Mandela, who refused to let the story of oppression define him. Imprisoned for 27 years, he emerged not with vengeance, but with a vision of reconciliation that reshaped a nation. Or consider Mary Shelley, who, in a world that dismissed women's voices, wrote Frankenstein, a story that redefined what it means to be human. These weren't just acts of defiance, they were acts of creation, rewriting reality against impossible odds. You have that same power. Not to change the world overnight, but to change the way you move through it, moment by moment, choice by choice. So how do you live this truth? Start by embracing the unknown. The poet John Keats called it negative capability, the ability to dwell in uncertainty without grasping for answers. Stop chasing the world's approval. Stop measuring yourself by its metrics. Instead, ask, what do I want to create? A life of quiet joy? A legacy of courage? A moment of pure, unfiltered truth? Each choice you make, each story you tell yourself, is a brushstroke on the canvas of your reality. Paint boldly. As you stand here, the world feels different, doesn't it? The air is sharper, the colors brighter, the possibilities endless. The unseen forces haven't vanished, they never will, but they no longer own you. You see them for what they are, shadows, not substance. The true substance is you, your mind, your will, your capacity to create. Step forward now, not as a prisoner of someone else's story, but as the author of your own. What will you write next?